Our show nears completion. We have one more discovery to show you. A find that Dr. Hawass calls the biggest adventure of his life. A burial chamber for a god hidden deep in a Giza shaft. But before that, we'll address one more controversial theory. As we have seen, many suspect ancient Egypt was influenced by a vanished genius culture. For one group, the rock of the Sphinx speaks the truth. Was there a lost civilization that lived on the Giza Plateau? Perhaps the answers have been right in front of us all along, in the mystery of the Sphinx. Egyptologists have always believed that the Sphinx was carved by the pharaoh Khafra, that it's his face you see on the body of the lion. But author John Anthony West sees something more.
The head of the Sphinx is much, much too small for its body, yet the head is a perfectly fashioned and perfectly proportioned head. The body is a perfectly proportioned body. So our belief is that the Sphinx has been altered at some point or another in its history.
If the pharaoh Khafra had his face carved onto an existing structure, then it's possible the Sphinx is much, much older than we think. There is definitive evidence that the Sphinx was in fact weathered by constant rains.
What attacks limestone and dissolves it away is water.
The only way that such a fissure forms in a rock face that's cut smooth is by rainwater, lots and lots of rainwater falling down over long periods of time.
But how can that be? Egypt's been a desert for more than 10,000 years.
There were moist periods, rainy periods in Egypt that clearly predate the modern Sahara Desert.
This kind of a rainy period prevailed in Egypt around from the time when the last ice age broke up. For the Sphinx to be water weathered and rain weathered means that it has to have been built before the rains fell.
Traditional Egyptologists argue that it was not rain, but the harsh environment of the windswept desert that caused this erosion. But West says that's just not possible.
The Sphinx has been covered in sand for most of the last 4,500 years. Obviously, it can't be weathered either by water or by wind and sand when it's covered up to its neck. If the water weathering theory is correct, then we're confronted by a very ancient and highly sophisticated civilization existing at a time when no civilization is supposed to have existed.
Perhaps the Sphinx is the last monument of this civilization, which vanished some 12,000 years ago. And if that's the case, was there any other evidence left behind? The prophecies of the renowned 20th century psychic Edgar Cayce might hold a key.
According to Edgar Cayce, around 10,500 BC, the Egyptians were attempting to record and store and hide records that future generations could find and that would enlighten them about this prehistoric period.
Edgar Cayce predicted that this great haul of records was to be found beneath the paws of the Sphinx. Could it be that underneath this mysterious monument awaits the wisdom of a highly evolved race? Perhaps even evidence of the lost city of Atlantis.
These records that are hidden in Egypt will surprise us and break us through a limited thinking that we've had about who we really are and what life's really all about. So it will require the right heart to open that chamber.
2 years ago, an American research team came to Giza and using ground-penetrating radar reported odd readings underneath the Sphinx. The findings suggested the possibility of an underground chamber. More recently, however, Dr. Hawass discovered just that, a subterranean chamber. And it lies at the bottom of a long shaft not far from the Sphinx. This long hidden chamber honors the greatest of Egyptian gods, Osiris. In ancient myth, he's the principal figure of the country's genesis, a benevolent god-king who brought civilization to Egypt, but then was brutally murdered by his brother. Osiris was reborn as the Lord of Eternity, ruler of the dead, the chief judge at the trial of all souls. And as we now learn, he is part of the wonders at Giza.
Maury, we talk so much about dispelling myths. How about confirming one? About 2,500 years ago, the Greek historian Herodotus, who I guess you could call the world's first foreign correspondent, visited this site. Local villagers and guides told him that he could find the tomb of a king buried deep beneath the Giza Plateau. Well, about a year ago, Dr. Zahi Hawass, who joins me here at the mouth of the shaft, embarked on what he calls his greatest adventure ever. Zahi, you've been doing this for some 30 years. Why is this so amazing?
You know, Susie, it's amazing because this is the first time that they excavate underneath 100 feet in water. Before, I excavate on sand and dirt. And also at the same time, I discovered that this is what Herodotus talked about. And I found that this is the tomb of Osiris. Let's go and see what we're talking about.
Our first descent is about 20 feet, a chance to get warmed up to the rickety, rusty ladders. Now it gets intimidating. The second leg is a major drop as the shaft narrows before opening to a room once obscured by dirt and sand. Zahi and his men cleared it to find a burial chamber with 6 rooms. So this is the second level, 55 feet down, right?
Yeah.
What did you find here?
You know, I excavated this part. I found 6 rooms cut in the rock, 2 red granite sarcophagus, and pottery and bones.
What do the bones teach you?
Bones tell us about the people. Pottery gave me the date of this place, 500 BC, 2,500 years ago.
And what made you think that there was anything beyond this?
You have to look for the other level. This is the adventure. Let me take you to show you the most amazing thing that you'll ever see in your life. But let us take our jackets off because it's so hot there.
Oh my. Upon discovery, the third level was submerged. When the water was pumped out, Dr. Hawass had the find of his life. No fear of the unknown?
Yes, but there is great adventure. Adventure in archaeology. خلاص طافوا بقى ورجعوا هناك.
So we're 100 feet down now. What is this?
Susie, this is the tomb of Osiris.
The god of the underworld. This once extravagant mausoleum, a moat with 4 pillars engraved with hieroglyphics constructed thousands of years ago, was intended to be a symbolic shrine for the keeper of the afterlife.
If you will look down here, I will show you what is here. Look, there is the second part of the sarcophagus. Goes down, I think about 1 feet down. And up, you see what we did. The lid is up. You want to see the length of that lid? Okay, let us watch out. Let us see.
How much would something like this weigh?
Oh, the weight of this was 11 to 12 tons. What's the length?
Just about 9 feet.
9 feet. Then the whole lid and the second part is about 11 to 12 tons weight.
And how could they get 12 tons down 100 feet?
You know, when they cut the shaft, they fill the shaft with sand, and they cut side shafts. They take the sand from the side shafts, and the sarcophagus will come down piece by piece.
And there's more. Archaeologists agree that below the Giza Plateau lies a network of tunnels. Could this be the center? A gateway? Our first evidence is stunningly revealed.
I will go now and show you this exciting place.
Zahi, the American prophet Edgar Cayce talked years and years ago about a lost civilization, hidden tunnels that would lead to answers about it. Could this have anything to do with that?
You know, Susie, Edgar Cayce and lost civilization, it's a legend, it's a myth. The Arabs in the last century, they talked about all of this, and psychic brought it to us back. But to be fair, I did not excavate this tunnel yet. Then really I don't know where it leads us. But I always say that you never know what the sand and the tunnels of Egypt may hide of secrets.
Zahi, thank you so much for allowing us to experience this adventure with you.
You are welcome, Susie.
And Maury, I guess on a personal level, I am in awe of this whole thing, and what a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be a part of this great discovery that will certainly fuel the fire and the speculation that we can find the answers, perhaps details of a lost civilization, instructions for our future. Maybe.
Thanks, Susie. We can hear the call to prayer for a new day here at Giza. And now there's this obvious question. Where do the tunnels that they were talking about take us? Tonight you have heard from the many who think a piece of ancient Egyptian history is missing. What if they're right? What if a tunnel leads to a chamber beneath the Sphinx? What if there is a hall of records that contains the wisdom of a past civilization, a lost culture whose combination of science and spirituality was even more advanced than our own? The idea is outrageous. But in opening the lost tomb tonight, we have learned, as Dr. Hawass told us, there is much yet to be revealed under the Giza sands. We'll be right back.